Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? I had a pretty cool day yesterday. It wasn't Father's Day. It's Father's Day today, but I got a chance to drive my 21-year-old daughter up to upstate New York, which for me in Connecticut, we actually started in New Haven where she lives. So it's like, 3.5, 4 hour drive with traffic. And stayed up there for about an hour and a half and then came back down. And I forgotten it was free RPG day. And I talked to a friend of mine, James Carpier, who is involved with the new TSR. And maybe I'll put a link or two down there in case you don't know who he is. But anyhow, I was hoping to get in on a Lamentations of the Flame Princess game he was running at a local game store in Newington, Connecticut. I'm thinking that there's no way I'd get back in time. And also, I figured there was no way I'd be able to pick this up, but I got the last copy in the store. I'm really pumped because this has pretty cool alternate magic stuff. I mean, looked at it a little bit, but it may be cooler than the stuff I was kind of coming up with, and just some other interesting stuff in this book. So really digging that I got this. So anyhow, uh, I did get a chance to play in the Lamentations of the Flame Princess game that James was running. I thought that was really cool. I got there, I don't know if I was a half hour late or whatever, but the party really hadn't done all that much. And so he was running it. The shtick is it's kind of like, I guess like 18th century England. We're all English soldiers. It's kind of like a Highwayman sort of thing. And I think we are just kind of play testing this adventure. So he may publish this in the future. Really cool adventure, really cool hook. I like what he did with it. But anyhow, uh, I ran into a couple uncomfortable situations in the game itself. The first being that I'm the last guy there, and the last character available on the table is a lieutenant, the highest ranking character. And if you know me, you know that like I like to play my character. What would they do? So I end up in the situation where I'm kind of bossing these people around that had already been involved in the game for a little while. But I tried to keep it lighthearted and comical. But I still tried to thought, well, what would this guy really do? And it was kind of easy because the other players saw things that were obviously more bizarre and crazy and sinister, which my character simply did not believe because he's all about maybe getting a promotion if we catch this highwayman and this reward, and he doesn't want these guys to mess this up. And they're bringing back these crazy reports, and so it was easy to kind of play that way. So it was lighthearted in that manner. But I thought long and hard about before I decided to make this video, because I want to talk about some player behaviors that drive me up a wall. And so I'm not picking on anybody, and I understand that it was a con game, like it was a bunch of people that were thrown together. Uh, and I almost made this video maybe like 2 months ago when I played in a game with a bunch of people that I know. A local gaming group I've talked about before that I kind of like, sometimes go and play with them, sometimes don't. So, not really picking on anybody in particular, but these are, I noticed last night, and I've played in many games like this before where these kind of pop up. And so these are kind of some hot buttons or pet peeves for me. So I'm going to sound like a curmudgeon no matter what way I do this, but I'm going to try to use a little bit of tact. The first one is like indecision. There's the personal indecision. Like, it's your turn. What do you do? And, of course, like yesterday, there were some gamers that were inexperienced. Some were very experienced, as far as I could tell, where they're not sure what to do. And I heard over and over again, well, I guess I really don't have any option here. And sometimes we're talking about like in combat or in a situation where we're talking about 6 seconds of time. And you start to realize that what they didn't have was options, any options that looked like they were going to be successful or effective. And, you know, I understand you don't always get what you want. I didn't really write this down in my notes, but telling the other person what to do as well drives me absolutely nuts. And you have these tacticians, that I forget the name of the guys, Robin's Laws, where people are telling each other what to do. That drives me absolutely nuts. Or trying to talk about when the characters, when the party's separate, which many times the party was separate for a brief moment. Uh, Players telling other players what to do or asking questions about the scene when you're just not there. That drives me up a wall as well. Um, and also like party indecision, because a lot of times there's just a lack of cohesion where nobody could really come to some kind of consensus or what are we going to do. And I kind of arrived in the group in a moment of those kind of non-consensus, and they brought me up to speed. And here I found myself in this really uncomfortable position where I'm the lieutenant. So, it was easy for me to tell them what to do. And I finally kind of gave some time, and hopefully I didn't step on too many toes, but it was obviously we were just going to sit there all night and not deciding what to do in the next minute. And so I pretty much said, you go here, you go do this, and what have you. And well, anyway, sometimes somebody has to take the reins, and I'm sorry. But anyhow, it drives me nuts when that happens. I think it drives everybody nuts. People being petulant when they don't get their way. And I saw a little bit of that, and I've seen that, over the years. And sometimes it's like, okay, you know what, that decision, our final consensus is not what I would have done. Or sometimes when things just don't go your way, period, in terms of a result narration. And I didn't see a lot of it, but just, that drives me nuts. um, as you know, impatience with the system as well. And I've been the guy impatient with the system. Trust me, when I was playing Pathfinder years ago, I was more than a little vocal about how I didn't like certain mechanics. And you know, somebody did a little bit last night, but I think they've never experienced kind of old school and like, you know, why are we rolling under here and, you know, rolling high there and rolling low there. And, you know, I understand, but that's a minor one. Um, but um, the other one though, that's probably the biggest for me, you know, besides like that whole indecision thing. This is probably the biggest really is working the ref and reality haggling. And this can happen really aggressively, really passive aggressively. This can be sometimes people can be really steamrollers with this. Where you know, as a player, you watch a player pretty much tell the referee or decide, well, this is the way this should happen. This should work. I'm going to do this because this is going to be the result, or this should be the result, rather than, you know, what seems like a subtle difference, but is not, stating your intention. I want to do this, and my intention is for this to happen. And then sitting back and letting the dice and perhaps the referee decide what really does happen, and being okay with that. And you know, sometimes, you know, it appears in this kind of back and forth argument, um, and sometimes it appears in kind of like a little bit more of becoming petulant. And sometimes it's, you know, it can be rather aggressive when it comes right down to it. But that, you know, aggressively narrating what happens or what should happen, and you know, kind of going back and forth, like even with something like, you know, hey, something anachronistic, or you know, the ref says, hey, you know, there really are no grenades in this particular time period, and then you get the well actuallys at that point. And we had a little bit of well actuallys back and forth with grenades and Molotov cocktails and what have you. The other one that I didn't put down is like the wanting to be psychic, like, you know, there are things, well, what's going to happen if I do this? Or, you know, if I fail this roll making this Molotov cocktail, what's going to happen? And James having to smile and say, and James handled everything really well, because there were some, you know, there were some moments back and forth. And it was, I'm making it sound like it was a terrible game. It was not. But these are just pet peeves, so I'm more sensitive to them. Where he said, you know, has to say, well, you're just not sure which one it is. You don't know that you failed. The roll just says that you failed to make this particular one correctly. Who knows what could happen? You know, or, you know, on and on you go. I mean, even down to that whole, I saw a couple times last night was something that made me smile, because it reminded me of playing with a guy 30 some odd years ago, where he'd stand at the dungeon entrance and say, what's down there, you know, and want like psychic information back. So anyhow, this is kind of a rambly video, but it's about some of my pet peeves, and you know, I'm not picking on the people last night. Trust me, I had fun at that game, but I've noticed these things, you know, over and over during the years, and these are some of my bigger pet peeves, which, you know, pretty much, you know, drive me up a wall. So I'm a little bit oversensitive to them. What about you? Do you have any pet peeves with other players? Like to hear about them. Happy gaming.